Hey, Kelly, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Kelly Fairchild. I work for UniFirst Corporation. I've been with them like 9.5 years. I'm a regional sales manager, and I started as a sales rep, became a sales manager, and I've been a regional ever since, and I love it.
Yeah, that's a long time at one company, huh?
It is. It's funny. I think overall, I probably started my sales career at Dial America, if anyone remembers that. I did telemarketing and found that I was good at it. I was good at setting appointments, and which is like that's the crux of everything, right? Without an
Yeah,
appointment, you don't have anything.
got to
So
start somewhere, right?
yeah, and what I learned through my career at UniFirst was um, obviously the selling structure of the company works well for me, but they did a really good job of allowing me to explore and listen to my feedback and make tweaks and changes. So that's why I've stayed. They've just been really good to me.
Yeah, cool. And well, what got you into sales to begin with? Was it the only option or the
No,
easiest option?
it's so funny because my dad hated salespeople. Like he was the guy that went on the car lot and like, don't talk to me, like,
I'm
and
surrounded
when
by
I,
them. Yeah.
I started working at MetLife as an insurance agent, and I really enjoyed it, the challenge of it. And I got married, and I was working. My background is hospitality, food and beverage, and I was working for a boutique hotel, and the GM had left, and I was running food and beverage and the hotel. And my kids were like, "Mom, you got to stop. Like this is craziness. You got to do something different." And that's when my stepdad said, "Hey, Kelly, you sell every day and you don't even realize it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "I know a company that will teach you. They have a great training program. So try it and see what happens." And that was UniFirst.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And what was the first year like?
Oh, it's awful.
Cakewalk?
I remember, I'll
Awful.
never forget. Well, you're learning your territory, right?
Stress.
You're learning the sales process. You're learning your own personal flow on how it makes sense to you, your engagement level. And I remember the first time I had, completely sourced a prospect by myself, worked the system, worked the whole deal all the way through, and they didn't sign. And I remember calling my sales manager saying, "Listen, I'm going to drive into a tree. Like I did everything you people told me, everything step by step. It was beautiful." And my sales manager said, "Did you think you were going to close everyone you spoke to?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah." And to be honest, I still sometimes still do. But I think that first year of realizing, okay, I have to realize that I may have all the solutions, but the prospect may not be ready for my solutions
Right.
at this time, but it will come. And that particular prospect signed with us 3 months later. So,
Okay. Yeah.
so it was a great lesson to learn.
And it's hard because we think
Yeah.
that way. This,
Mhm.
we go to school, we learn, oh, if you study, you do the work, you pass the test.
Yeah.
But that's not how people work.
No.
They work their way.
Yeah, and it's funny because I have so many people that will ask me like, well, what's a good script to use, or what should I say on the phone, or how should I do this? And if I tell them and it doesn't work the very first time they use it, they're like,
Who
that
do
didn't
they
work.
blame?
Man, she sucks. Right? And I'm like, everything I tell you is not going to work all the time,
Yeah.
but if you're consistent, it will. I also think that the making sure that you take things and put them into perspective and internalize them, you can take the company's message and mix it with your own
That's the
verbiage
key.
and be amazing.
Yeah. And that's why I always try and steer people away from, pure personality change sales training,
Yeah,
because you're not going to change your personality,
never.
whether you're 22 or 42 or whatever. It's a that's not the right strategy. Learning a skill, applying it, get some feedback, and make it your own.
Yeah. One of the great things about being a sales rep and then the sales manager and a regional then in the same company is that you see these people that are tremendous producers, and you're like, man, I can't believe that guy can do it. He has such a different approach than you do, and or she does. And that's been the probably one of the greatest things when you're in maybe one location or one company, and you can see that growth and you can see all the differences, but still people are making it successful. And you're like, wow, like I can try anything. It's very empowering, I think.
And I think that's one of the key differentiators between what I've seen in great sales leaders and mediocre ones. The mediocre ones want soldiers, everyone to look the same, act the same, say the same thing. And that never works.
No.
But it's so hard as a leader to accept all this diversity and style and abilities and approaches and just let people do what they do best.
Agreed. I had a sales manager who I had a disagreement with, and he asked me, like, what's your approach to these two different types of people? And I said, I mold myself to what they need. And he went, oh, I guess that's ridiculous. This is my way. Like, they need to mold to me. And I'm like, if you think people are going to mold to you, you're crazy.
Yeah, you keep waiting.
Yeah, he's no longer a sales manager.
Well, you know, anybody who's either been a kid or has kids know that there's some nurture, but there's a whole lot of nature there.
Yes. Yeah.
And that nurture takes forever, but that nature, that's there.
Yeah.
You know, and if somebody's a talker, they're going to be a talker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'll learn and they'll mold and they'll evolve and they'll mature. But, and what was it like after the first year? The first year was kind of rough. You had to build your pipeline. You had to learn the system.
Yeah. So my first year, huge learning curve. So I go into the second quarter, which was the holidays, November, December, January, right? And I'm got all these prospects and I'm working and I'm doing everything right. And I felt things started to fall apart on me, you know, verbals, suddenly we're going to move to March, or, you know, everything. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Like I can't close anything. I don't know what's going on with me. And it wasn't the case. I was closing business, but I found some of my larger deals had been pushed back, or some of the things I thought I already had fell apart. And the big learning curve for me was that, so during that type of seasonal, where people may be taking vacations or you know, mentally leaving, I had to double production. I had to ramp up in basically September to prepare for November. Yeah. And I learned it that year. So what happened is I wound up having the best third quarter that my location had ever had. And it was because of all the work I did in the second quarter. So it was a terrific learning experience. But at the time, man, I was bummed. I was like, oh my God, like I suck. Like, what's going on? I don't understand. I'm still me. I'm still doing everything the right way. And I'm still, you know, solving problems. But for whatever reason, I just didn't have enough in the pipeline to get through the season. Ever since then, though, it hasn't been a problem. But it's mindset.
It is. And does your business have that cyclical pattern?
Oh, yeah.
It does.
I think so. Yeah. And it's funny. We, my other partner, regional, told me right when I started, like, your second quarter number will oftentimes be very close to your year end number. And so take a look at that and plan for it very carefully. And ever since I have, and he's been very right. And this is a man that's been doing it for years. So.
Yeah. Because I always noticed that, you know, right after the July 4th holiday in my business, it would be like crickets almost till Labor Day, little bumps and stuff. And you all of a sudden think the economy is shut down. Yeah. Like, no, it's just people go on vacation.
Yeah. People just check out. It's just like that first weekend before school starts, like you said, that Labor Day, like, I was talking to a couple reps last week and they were like, man, like I can't get a hold of anybody. No one's returned my calls. I'm like, it's the weekend before school's going back. Everyone's gotten relaxed. Still do all the other research, do the other stuff so that you're prepared to start the next week, you know, on top. So I think that's probably the biggest thing you learn as a sales rep in your first couple of years is that, at least I have found, is that if you put the work in, it'll come. Yeah. It's just not necessarily going to come on your timetable. So that was the big learning.
And they don't care about your timetable.
No, nobody cares about my timetable. No. Nobody.
that takes a while to learn. So why did you decide to get into leadership?
Well, I it was literally a coin toss. I was either going to stay a rep or I was going to become a sales manager. And I really didn't want to go back into management. I'd done it in the hospitality industry, and I thought I was finally felt like I was getting paid for what I was worth.
Yeah.
Like my production was solely based on, what I was doing myself and how I planned my day. And I thought, if I go into leadership, am I going to have that same ROI, basically? Yeah, I was like, is it going to be the same? And my husband said to me, because you won't be happy if you don't do it. Because I won't say a control freak, but I'm a problem solver. Like, I see things and I'm like, well, why aren't we fixing that? Or why is this working this way? And because of that, I decided to go into leadership, because I like to solve problems. And in sales, there can be problems with supply chain. There can be problems with, a product. And then there can be, problems with what you're saying and how you're saying it, your deal management, right? So it's all these different things that can be an issue. And I love that. And I think that's what's kept me in leadership, is that I love looking at, okay, let me do 360. What can I get to the root? How can I get to the root cause and solve it so that I can free up either my sales managers or my reps to be able to do better?
Wow, that's the first time I've heard that answer, but it does make sense.
I'm not normal, I know that.
And was the adjustment hard, or was it natural, or?
I was very lucky. It was very good. Now, the people I had been working with, so my partner sales reps were now, I was their boss technically, right? I'm now the sales manager, and they all came to me and said, we think this is great. We know you're going to help us. And I had another sales manager from another region say to me, hey, you've got to keep your passion alive for sales. You've got to make sure that the quota number is your number, so that if your people aren't finding it, you got to help them find it.
Yeah.
And don't forget to manage them the way you wanted to be managed. And those were like key pieces of advice that I actually wrote down and I put on my computer screen, and I'm glad I did, because there were a lot of, my biggest lesson learned that first year as a sales manager is I'm very passionate and I want to be the best. I am super competitive, and I had a young lady working for me who was a great sales rep. She was really developing, and she was in our industry. She was at that President's Club number. She was really producing, terrific. And she came into my office one day and said, Cal, I have to give you my 2 weeks notice. And I was like, what? Like, you've got $127 average. You're doing this. Like, oh, you have all this stuff going on. And she goes, I can't take the pressure. And I sat back and I was like, oh shit, this is my fault. Yeah. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she goes, if by Wednesday I don't have something for you, she goes, I'm kind of sick to my stomach. And the idea that I'm not keeping up with everyone else or keeping up with your expectations, she goes, I don't want to let you down. And I can't, and she goes, I think it's affecting my health. And it was a big lesson learned, because if we can have successful sales reps that don't go to your highest pinnacle of leadership or sales success in the company, and they're still terrific producers that are making the kind of money they want to make and still help you make your numbers. And that was probably my biggest lesson learned that first year.
And that's it. How big was the team? Was it 5?
Small.
10?
No, we had 3 reps at the time. I only had 3. Yeah. We had 4. I'm sorry, we had 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a super small team. Oh yeah. I mean, I was like devastated. Plus, everybody was doing what they needed to be doing. We were, everyone was firing on all cylinders. Yeah. And so that really made me take a step back and think, what is it about your leadership that, pushed this woman out? And then it was also a balance too, because I had, great people around me that said, hey, you're not crazy. You weren't overbearing or micromanaging, but there's something to be looked at. There is something there. I think, drive my people, but I think I'm more empathetic to realize now, what is the goal, and am I seeing incremental improvement? If we're improving, then we're moving in the right direction, and it doesn't have to be a 0 to 90.
Yeah. And that's hard as a leader to recognize and be patient with.
Yeah. And when you see like the potential of someone and they're not living up to their potential, it's just, I don't know, mind blowing to me. Like, you could be doing so much more. I think that I even today or yesterday, I was thinking about it. I was looking at some numbers and I was like, gosh, this person should be here and they're here. And I don't know, there's no more obstacles that I can remove for them. It's their obstacle, you know, it's their mindset or something they can't get out of their way.
And that's it. And do you diagnose it as, like in that case that you described, where that person had the ownership of it? The blame was not on others.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe the skill wasn't there, or the desire wasn't there, or the resilience.
Yep. And that's at the time, I think it was our vice president of sales said to me, not everybody looks at sales the way you do. Not everybody has that drive and passion you do. And to match that, for someone to fake it and try to match that was probably wore her out.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, okay, that's fair. So, and then it was like, well, how do I, you know, manage my own expectations and my own passion for the sale, you know, or the process. And so that's, I didn't learn it in one sitting. It's been a journey. And I still catch myself like, what are we doing? You know, like, okay, let me think about this. How should I approach this? And that's where like the emotional intelligence training really comes in. And also last year we really worked on the book Radical Candor by Kim Scott. Like, how do we have the complicated discussions with empathy and leading with realism, you know, without being, you know, negative or catty or any of that. So it's been real important.
And that's hard to do.
Very. You know, it's so funny. We read the book as a team and we worked on little things. And what I found is that, okay, everyone felt good. Oh yeah, this is great. And then when it came to like sales reviews and we probably had to write a few people up, everyone was like, yeah.
Can I be candid with you, but you not with me?
I'm like, okay, I think we need to work on that some more. And I found it with myself too. I'm like, oh man, you know, I got to fix this.
Right. Yeah. You can only take so much candor at a time.
That's true. How candid should I be?
Yeah. Let's inch our way into that.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, did you work this model into your interview process to make sure that people, you know, either have shown this or want this?
Yeah, so it's funny that you brought that up because when I was getting reviewed, one of my weaker spots is that I think I can fix everyone for when it comes to my door, you know, and that's been a huge learning curve in itself. But asking like emotional intelligence questions, asking situational questions, you know, how did you handle this? You know, if you had a deal that was here and all of a sudden it disappeared, what did you do? You know, asking those situational questions really helps kind of pull out how people really acted and what they really thought. And once they showed that part of themselves, then I knew which way I could go with them.
Okay. And what were you looking for specifically?
First of all, coachability.
Yeah.
I need someone who will listen, regardless if it's black, white, male, female, I don't care, but we have to be able to communicate with each other. And then the other thing is the perseverance. You know, are you willing to, when someone says no, okay, let's figure out why. And let's get it to a yes. Like, or if it's not a yes today, it's a yes in 2 months, 6 months, a year. You know, let's keep working the process. We don't allow things to block us. We move around and we get over and we go under them. Those are probably the two biggest, I would say.
And when you say emotional intelligence, what does that mean to you? Is it from the book, or is it, do you have your own definition?
I don't know if I have my own definition. I would say I think you have to know who you are, especially when you're a leader. You have to understand who you are. Yeah, that self-awareness is very big. And then when I see it in others, especially when it's my sales leaders or my sales reps, is, you know, do you understand your reaction right now? And do you understand what the next step is? So I have, over the years, you see people who can be very successful, but like I said, can't get out of their own way.
Yeah. And
what is it? You know, what is that thing? You know, what is their why? Why do they come to work? So, you know, why are you in sales? What is it about it? And then how can I develop that love or that passion, or help you develop it yourself? I think emotional intelligence comes down to owning who you are and how successful you can be. And I can't make someone emotional intelligent. I have to, but
who doesn't want to be?
but I can give them the tools and say, you know, here's, let's take the test out of the book and see where there's places we can improve.
Yeah.
And it's a very soft conversation, included with like hard skills. You know, let's work on phone skills, let's work on closing, let's, you know, and then let's work on this as well. And when we get that mix of that, it's like complete professional development, that's when you really see things take off, I
Yeah,
think.
and especially if they have a hunger for that to become better,
Yes.
you know.
It's funny because I've over the years seen people who say they want to become better, but when you
As long as they don't have to
give them
change.
this, yeah, I was talking to manager this
As
morning
long
about
as-
it. I was like,
as long as you see that in me.
yeah, as long as you don't hold me accountable. We were, you know, we have phone blocks, and it's never popular. No one likes doing a phone block, you know, no one. And I'm like, well, we target it. We have all this supporting material. We have all this stuff, right? And someone said, well, you know, I'm pretty successful. I don't think I need that. Like, you just told me 2 weeks ago you wanted to be professionally developed and you wanted to get to the next level, and now you're telling me you don't need that. You know, and so that's where the radical candor conversation comes into play.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know, a couple weeks ago you told me this, so now how do you feel?
Well, that's it. Like, how about like the limiting beliefs? Do you see that a lot when you interview? Because, you know, people say, oh, it's my territory or something other than them. It's my age,
Yeah.
my gender, my upbringing.
And that's the ownership. Like, if you don't see people the emotional intelligence is about ownership of who you are and in overcoming things in general. I talk about this, and sometimes on personal levels, it's sometimes easier to understand. Like, if you had a bad relationship with your mother or father, now when you have children, do you then have a bad relationship with your children, or you try to overcome that, right? You try to, I'm not going to make those mistakes. And it's the same in your work life. Like, if some area is not working or didn't work, okay, well, what do you have to do to get over that and work to the next level? Right now, it's the embracing of technology I see as it's an interesting shift in our industry in general. The balance between CRM and database management versus working your territory and being a street hustler or a street grinder, you know, whatever you want to say. It really takes a mindset of balance. It's not one or the other. It has to be a mixture of both, but it also has to have a realistic time frame in a salesperson's day, in a sales manager's week, you know. And again, there's no simple answers in general, but it is simple.
It is simple. Yeah.
I had someone say to me the other day, well, I'm producing and you're mad at me because I didn't put any of my appointments in the system. And I'm like, I love that you're producing. I think it's amazing you're producing. And I think, wouldn't it be great if you had that information in there so we could get you to the next level?
Yeah.
You know, it's a very fine line, and I see it more and more. It seems like the last couple of years, it's really been prominent discussion between sales reps and sales managers.
It's huge. I think it's almost like the number one thing. And, you know, and I'm not sure what the right solution. I've seen people like hire like sales admins to do all call the rep up and enter it over the phone and stuff. And I talk to a lot of my friends who almost refuse to explore new technology.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, the world's not going to change to you.
No.
And guess how fast it's going in this direction.
Absolutely. And that's that, you know, I'm not going to bend to it. Well, it's going to bend you, unfortunately. Yeah. And I think one of the things about, you know, moving the direction we're moving in sales in general is that you have to be flexible. Sales is all about change. It's never been the same. We've never done the same thing year over year. We just haven't, you know? And so the idea that we can't, you know, incorporate new technologies and new ideas into what we're doing is short-sighted. And we have to find the balance. And I always taught, especially in my beginning years, as like people would get their back when it was a BlackBerry, you know, put all their information in, and this is where all their prospects were. No, your prospects are in the world. Your prospects are in your territory. Yeah. You've got to work your territory, and your database supports them, and you support your database with the territory. And I've always felt like that was the right approach. How you utilize that information is the key now in this information age. And, you know, are you obtaining emails? Are you putting in notes that make sense to you that you can utilize in 6 months or a year. The idea that it's a corporate ideal versus a sales rep ideal, I think is a moot point at this point. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants sales. You know?
Yeah, I mean, right. I think the fight is over, and
Gonna wave the white flag.
Well, it's been over for about 10 years.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So what do you look for in a rep? I mean, we talked about coachability, kind of the emotional intelligence, the competitiveness. Is that key for you?
Actually, I look for curiosity.
Yeah.
I need someone, because we really focus on a consultative sale. So you have to be smart enough to understand what we do, right? And then you have to recognize what we do to fit somebody else's problem. Yeah. And so I think you have to be naturally curious. And if you're not naturally curious, you're educating yourself to be curious. Like, is this person, listening to listening to a blog post? Are they reading? Are they trying to become better and understand issues? That's huge, because if you're not, you're missing the boat.
Yeah, because there's the I don't know enough to start curiosity, and then there's the confirmation bias. If it doesn't fit into my view of the world, I don't care.
Right.
That natural. Do you think that you can learn to be curious? A lot of people think you can't.
I think you can if you're inspired. I think if you find passion in something. Like, if you would have asked me, 15 years ago, if I was going to be selling managed workwear, I wouldn't even known what managed workwear meant. And then to become passionate about it, it's mind blowing to me. So it definitely can be learned. However, I have an innate curiosity. I like to understand how things work and flow together. Yeah. So I think that certainly helps. The consultative sales process, I love, absolutely love. It suits me. It suits my ability to problem solve and ability to make connections with people. And I like that feeling of I've helped someone. It's huge. Yeah.
Cool. And so now you're a leader of leaders. Is that true?
I guess so. Yeah.
And what was that change like? Because now that's yet another level up. And
yeah, that was probably my first year real eye-opening, because you're held to a whole nother standard on the top and on the bottom. People looking up to you and people looking down at you. I think that the biggest change, when I see a sales rep go to a sales manager, their biggest problem usually is they're still thinking like a rep. Yeah. Their first year, maybe two. So I knew that as an RSM, I couldn't think like a sales manager necessarily, right? But when I talked to the sales managers, they all had specific needs to help them with their day-to-day of their job. And I found myself my first year working with all the reps, just being a sales manager.
You're comfortable.
My CEO said, he goes, hey, my first year, he's like, hey, you had a heck of a year. He goes, but you can't be the #1 sales manager for your region. Yeah. I was like, oh man. And I took that to heart. I said, okay, I have to change my focus. And that still took me a couple of years. I probably still make the same mistakes a little bit. But what I found is that developing a sales manager to work better with their team has been extremely rewarding. When you see someone start to make the shift and their numbers start to incrementally improve, man, there's nothing more empowering, I think, to know that you help, steer the ship a little bit and guide them so they could find their potential. It's a great feeling.
And how do you get your leaders to do that, to start, working one level up and guide and not hijack deals? And
yeah. I think probably through being candid, being honest. My group knows me. Luckily, we've been together now for a few years. Like those first couple of years, it was hard because I'm sure I was seen as, bossy or too inquisitive or, other 4-letter words perhaps, because I have a strong will. But I think I proved myself by working with them. Like, okay, well, what do you need me to do? How can I help you? And I did those things, even if I kind of disagreed, because I knew I had to build that level of trust. Once you have that level of trust, everything else falls into place, because you can have a tougher conversation. You can really explore other avenues that maybe the sales manager hasn't looked at before. Have you thought about addressing this person this way? Have you thought about looking at these types of deals? It's the trust factor has been
It
huge.
is the trust, because otherwise they view it as judgment.
Yes.
And you get that,
Yep.
oh, I did that.
Yep.
I'm sure you did something.
Yeah. We, in my region, I would ask corporate whenever they came out with something new, I was like, let me beta test it. Let me beta test it. I would always offer.
I can't hear you. There you go. It's still not picking up your audio. I think it's not connected to your computer. You there now? I can hear something.
Can you hear me?
Yep, now I can. Yep. Now the image is frozen. Oh, there you are.
I'm struggling here. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why they're not popping on.
That's okay. I can hear you now. You got me?
There we go.
There we go.
Gee, sorry about that.
No problem. I think we were talking about you having trust with your leaders and.
Yes. So where was I? Oh, so I had, right in the beginning, anytime my company had something to test, I said, let me do it. Let us have it. And so it fostered a culture of us learning something together. So I wasn't the authority necessarily. Now I had a little background information so I could help, but it really helped us learning something together and it was something we could all focus on and agree to,
Yeah.
And the other thing I did is we met twice a year, regardless. That was a big deal with my company at the beginning. And we would do something socially. We would all go out together, go to a comedy club, go do something. And it really fostered that we liked each other, which was nice. And we're all very different. So even though we all are extremely different, we found that we could trust each other and that we could enjoy each other's company. And that fostered a whole nother level of communication. We started a group chat, and we still have it all these years later, where we talk about everything, not only work, but like, hey, did you see that game? Or we might be talking about anything socially in the world as well. So it's been it's really eye-opening. Everyone wants to be treated like a person.
Go figure.
Yeah, surprise. And the more I was open and honest about, hey, I'm struggling with this, I'm trying to do this, they would tell me, hey, I'm struggling with this and I'm trying to do this. We had a meeting where we all put down like our 3 top struggles.
Yeah.
I put them on the board and we sat in a horseshoe and we sat and we just talked them out one by one. Every person gave their solution and talked about their problem also. And it was probably one of the best meetings I ever had. And I thought, this is the key. What we're doing right now is the key. And so that's been our success, the key to our success.
Cool. Hey, Kelly, this has been a lot of fun. Where can people go to follow you?
LinkedIn, Kelly Fairchild. And I try to post something like at least once a month. I can't do what you do, man. Not yet.
You gotta give it a shot.
One day I'll